returning to the country of Myanmar today, also known as Burma, for a story involving snakes. There are a lot of them in this Southwest Asian country, and thousands of people here are bitten every year. So who you gonna call? Snake rescuers. There's a team of folks who specialize in locating, capturing, rehabilitating, and releasing snakes back into the wild. In this video, you see them working to save pythons, which are non-venomous, but they also capture crite and cobras, which are highly venomous. One 40-year-old member who was hospitalized 7 times in 7 years says there's a 90% chance he'll get bitten when catching a venomous snake. And the workers learn to identify snakes by their smells, because knowing the difference between the stenches of cobra spit and pythons can save their lives. They all have full-time jobs and rely on donations to fund the expenses of snake catching. So why do they do it when Burmese used to just kill the animals when their paths crossed? One worker says snakes are lovely if you, quote, acknowledge their nature, and indicated that if you can catch and release the reptiles back into the wild, it shows compassion and is satisfying. Welcome to the world from A to Z with Carl Azuz. That's me, and I am so thankful to see you this Tuesday. East Africa is next on our show. Parts of Burundi, Tanzania, and Kenya have seen severe flooding since last month, and with effects continuing to spread across the region, it doesn't look like the problem will end anytime soon. Hundreds of thousands of people have been affected, with many losing their homes. There have been dozens of deaths reported across Tanzania and Kenya, and though Kenyan schools were scheduled to reopen on Monday, the nation's government delayed that by a week, as more than 100 of them have reportedly been flooded, some losing walls in the high waters. Local news reports on Monday said a dam collapsed in the western part of the country. It sent water rushing over roadways and into homes. One family said they managed to escape by climbing onto their roof. Bridges and roads across Kenya have been destroyed by the weeks of floods. And while aid organizations like the Kenya Red Cross have been working to help those in need, forecasters expect more rain in the days ahead, leaving little hope for relief. On opposite sides of the Pacific, the U.S. and China have seen their rivalry grow in recent years. America's Secretary of State recently made a trip to the Asian country, but despite ongoing diplomatic discussions between the two sides, American officials have become increasingly concerned about possible Chinese meddling in the upcoming U.S. presidential election.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken departing China and casting doubt on a promise Chinese President Xi Jinping made to President Joe Biden last fall that China would not interfere in the 2024 U.S. presidential elections.
We have seen, generally speaking, evidence of attempts to influence and arguably interfere, and we want to make sure that that's cut off as quickly as possible.
Beijing has repeatedly said it does not interfere in U.S. elections. Blinken's 3-day visit to China culminated in a meeting with Xi as the two global superpowers remain at odds on a number of key issues. Xi telling Blinken, quote, China and the U.S. should be partners rather than adversaries. On Wednesday, President Biden signed a $95 billion foreign aid package that included more than $8 billion for the Indo-Pacific region, including funds for Taiwan to bolster security against Chinese aggression, and more than $60 billion for Ukraine's fight against Russia. The Biden administration has been critical of Beijing for warm relations with Moscow amid the invasion, and Blinken reiterated U.S. concerns about China's supply of weapons components to Russia.
Russia would struggle to sustain its assault on Ukraine without China's support.
The foreign aid package also included a potential U.S. ban of the popular app TikTok if TikTok does not divest from Chinese parent company ByteDance. It's a move the Chinese government has said it strongly opposes. Blinken said that TikTok did not come up in talks with the Chinese foreign minister. At the White House, I'm Karen Kafa.
On this date in world history. Happy birthday to the U.S. presidency. On April 30th, 1789, George Washington became the first president to take the oath of office. He did it on the balcony of Federal Hall in New York City, which was the nation's capital at the time. He also gave an inaugural address to Congress, even though he wasn't required by the Constitution to do so. On this date in 1975, North Vietnamese forces took control of the South Vietnamese capital of Saigon. What was known as the Fall of Saigon was the last major event in the Vietnam War, and the Southeast Asian country would soon unify under communist rule. And 31 years ago today, the European research firm CERN released its World Wide Web software to the public. It allowed consumers to explore the internet freely and easily. Many other web browsers were soon developed, and now more than 5 billion people around the world use the internet. Hundreds of people have been arrested at universities across the United States as protests and encampments have spread. Many of these demonstrators say they support Palestinians whose leaders in the militant group Hamas are at war with Israel in the Middle East. The protesters want universities to stop doing business with companies that do business with Israel, but the universities have refused. In some places, like the University of Texas at Austin, arrests began when demonstrators ignored demands to leave their tents. The university says most of those arrested aren't students there. New York's Columbia University says it's begun suspending students who ignored a deadline to leave their encampment. Other schools and students have compromised on limited protests that don't involve breaking college rules.
World of knowledge. What U.S. state has the most national parks? California, Florida, Montana, Arizona. It might make sense that the state with the largest population would have the most national parks. The answer is California, which has 28.
They've been called America's best idea, and there's at least one national park in every U.S. state. Most of them, over 300 of the 429 that currently exist, don't have an entrance fee. But the most popular parks, like the Great Smoky Mountains, the Grand Canyon, Acadia, Yosemite, Yellowstone, they bear the brunt of annual visitors. So the National Park Service is trying to spread some of the love to other parks that might be nearby and utilizing technology to virtually bring the parks to the people.
As millions pack America's most famous national parks,
30 or 40 parks account for 50% of the visitation.
enjoying the great outdoors can go from an escape to a traffic headache.
If that continues, those places like Yellowstone, Yosemite, and Grand Teton are going to be overrun, and the very reasons that people want to go there will no longer exist because it'll be overcrowded and overused.
That's why the National Parks Foundation and National Park Service are working to innovate, using technology to make sure people know about all 429 national park sites across the country.
If you're looking for a big canyon like the Grand Canyon, maybe you want to try Canyon de Chelly or Black Canyon of the Gunnison.
Of course, if you do visit that bucket list spot, the foundation and service are working on a new digital feature to highlight nearby destinations you may not know about.
Using technology to put reminders and flag opportunities for people. If you're in Grand Canyon, there are a dozen places within a short distance that you can go visit.
For those who can't travel, creating more online experiences is also a big focus, from animal tracking webcams to interactive live streams.
It'll go right into the classroom, and the kids can actually ask the ranger or the scuba diver questions about what are we seeing here and what's that.
The City of London is where we start today's World of Viewers segment, but not in the UK. We're talking about London, Kentucky, where Mrs. Sizemore's class is with us. Hello to North Laurel Middle School in the Bluegrass State. In Sylvania, Ohio, the Cougars are ready to pounce at Southview High School. It's great to see Mrs. Brunt's class watching there. And from Bradford, Pennsylvania, we welcome Mr. Kelly's class. Happy to be part of your day at Fretz Middle School in the Keystone State. Scientists say there are 20 main muscles in the human face. This robot one has 26. Its name is EMO, and it's a Columbia engineering project that utilizes artificial intelligence systems to help it expressively interact with people. EMO's eyes, which have cameras in them, have been programmed to make contact with humans' eyes, and its AI systems try to predict when people are going to smile so the robot can smile back. It's being called a revolution in robot-human interaction, and it looks like the engineer's a big fan of the Blue Man Group. Of course, it might raise eyebrows when it raises eyebrows, and while some people wouldn't bat an eyelash or even pay it lip service, others might be wide-eyed or even get cheeky in a face-off with such an expressive face, asking if it always keeps its chin up, sticks its neck out, lends an ear to conversation, puts its nose in others' business, or frowns upon those who ask why it's so blue. I'm Carl Azuz, hoping to see your face again tomorrow on The World from A to Z.